Sometimes being an artist, being cooped up in your studio doesn't really give you that sense of creativity and inspiration, and for me, I find inspiration outside. And I thought it would be a really good idea, especially as it's a lovely day out there, to take you on the journey with me today and show you where I get my inspiration here in Norfolk. And the aim of this video is also to inspire you at home to go out and inspire yourself wherever you live. I'm sure it's possible. And I'm going to be using my camera today to go out and help me as a tool to capture that inspiration. And then we're going to bring that back into the studio and make a little bit of a painting of it. So it's time to pack the bag for the day and head out. Right, here we go, look at this, gorgeous day, the sun is out. Start off down this little path, it's a little bit bumpy. Hopefully for you, the viewer, the footage isn't too shaky. But yeah, we're going to head out across the countryside and got little subjects that I've seen on a map that I want to try and paint in some way. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of breath. I'm on an electric bike, but I still like to try and work my legs as much as possible. But yeah, sorry, there's a subject way out in the distance, so a few miles away. And yeah, I think it's going to be something that I can paint in some kind of artistic style. But I think for me, this is what it's all about, getting out and about, getting inspired, seeing something that you want to paint, and that's where the inspiration should come from. This also for me covers 2 points of creativity as well. It ticks off my box with photography and then also turning that photo into a painting. It's a great way for me to get that creativity out of my system, as we all get that. Now in the distance I can sort of see the subject, so I will turn the camera around in a minute so you can see what I'm aiming for just there. So that tree in the distance, you can just see the top of it. It will become a little bit more clearer the closer we get to it. I saw this on Google Earth, so I think I'm going to nip into that field just by this tree, and there should be a nice line of sight up to the water tower. So it's a water tower that I want to try and capture in some way, but this field looks really nice at the moment. Okay, that's the photos taken, so it's time to go back to the studio and turn this photo into a piece of art.
things I left behind. I hear the call of restless skies, the dreams I couldn't chase.
I make a start here by spraying the canvas with my water spray bottle. I just find that really helps the paint glide onto the canvas easily. So here I am just applying some blue paint that I've just mixed up. But yeah, a wet canvas, this canvas is also pre-gessoed. It does help the paint flow really quickly. So that's a bit of a tip, just wet your canvas as much as possible. And then literally all I'm doing here is I picked up some magenta on the same paintbrush as the blue already loaded on the paintbrush. And I find that you can blend acrylic paint quite easily this way. If everything's quite wet, you can quite easily blend into different colours. So here I am again, I'm blending now in a bit of a green into the top of the scene, into the sky. And my aim here is to get the sky in as quickly as possible, and then the rest of the painting will then follow on from the sky. So once the sky is dry, I can then apply the rest of the painting over the top. I wanted to add in some clouds sort of low down. I actually went back to this location and took some better photos, so that's why the photos that you sort of see in the background isn't totally exact on the day. That day the sun was really high, but here as I went back the sun was a lot lower and I had that really nice evening cast. So there was a low cloud that was hanging about at low level, and then I'm just adding in some top level clouds that were coming in from the side of the photograph itself. Here's a little tip, I've got two brushes on the go. This one's completely dry, and that really helps you then blend those two paints together. If you just touch it really lightly, you can blend the colours quite easily. And here I am just adding in a little bit of warmth down to the horizon line. I wanted to add in just a little bit more warmth into this piece, and that really makes the sky a lot more warmer to the viewer. I then wanted to get a dead straight horizon, so I use a big ruler. I measured down from the side of the painting, that's why I'm looking left and right to see if I'm on the marks, and then I just pencil line in a horizon. And then it's time to start sketching out what I can see on the actual photo, and again just using a pencil, and at this stage I'm just trying to see what I see on the photo, capture that onto the painting itself. And then comes the fun part. I mixed up some green paint, and with a palette knife I'm splashing in that green really thick into the bottom section of this painting. I'm not too worried about where I'm placing the paint at the moment. I'm just looking for the highlights and lowlights of the actual photograph and trying to represent that onto the canvas in that bottom lower corner. Once I applied some green, it was then time to try and capture that yellow field, and here I'm just applying the paint over the top of that dried sky, so that's already dry at this stage. And it's at this stage when it becomes messy, this is when your brain really plays tricks on you, because you start looking at it thinking, this is a total mess, everything looks muddy, but Here I'm trying not to blend the yellow and the green too much because it will become muddy, and just trying to get those different values of paint onto the canvas in as big block as possible. The key here is though, don't feel disheartened if it starts to look a mess. Really don't worry, because you can always apply different layers over the top of acrylic paint. Just got to let it dry and your painting will eventually start to come alive how you want it. So the photo I took, I really concentrated on the composition, and I wanted my eye line to be travelling up the left hand side of this field. So this is where I'm going in with a real dark heavy green into this piece, and I want to try and get that eye line to follow all the way up to that water tower. And then it's time for the big experiment again. I do like to experiment. I start by spraying the paint, and then I'm using plastic film. So this is a bit like you'd use a plastic bag, but this is just some plastic sheeting I got from Amazon. And I'm just pushing it onto the paint and then peeling it off and revealing the different textures underneath. This is a really good, quick and easy way to get some fantastic textures onto your painting, because what happens is, using the roller as well, it doesn't tend to smudge the paint. It's lifting paint off, and when you reapply the plastic that's already got paint on it, it then applies it to other parts of the painting. So unlike a paintbrush, if I was using a paintbrush now, it would all start to look a little bit muddy, but using this technique with the plastic bag or some plastic sheeting and a roller, you can get that instant texture really quick.
Far from all the things I left behind, I hear the call of restless skies, the dreams I couldn't chase, the moments I can face, the streets unfold into the night, and woven dreams escape my sight. The winds hum through the pines.
Once that process was done, it was time to grab another paintbrush, and I'm just trying to get the tree line in, or something that represents that foliage to the left hand side that leads you to the water tower.
Steps dragging slow, and cold air on my skin is pulling me back in.
This is all by eye at this stage. I'm just looking over at the reference photo and then just applying the mark making onto the actual canvas itself. Don't be overcritical about whether your marks are in the right place, because it's just an artistic impression of a painting, of a view, but it does help taking a photo to start with that's got good composition, something that's interesting, something that leads your eye down to the main focus point. Here I'm just using a stipple brush just to create a bit more texture, and it's time to grab the palette knife and push in some more of that green into the bottom left hand corner. But already you can see that your eye is drawn all the way up the left hand side of this piece to the horizon.
The roots beneath the ground.
Just a quick little plug in this video. At the very end of this video there's something really interesting for artists to follow, but I'll just quickly talk about it now while I'm painting. I'm releasing an app soon. It's called FlowFrame. It's a scene AI generator where it allows you to take photos of your art, and at a push of a button it generates some fantastic art scenes that are really realistic, and you can download those photos and use them for your social posts and if you're trying to promote your art. So it's a brilliant tool that I'm going to be releasing soon, but I'll talk about it more at the end of this video. Here I am again with the plastic bag, and I'm creating some more of that texture just to sort of tie in the left hand side to the right hand side of this piece. It's back in with the big brush, and I'm just highlighting that field area with the yellow paint. It was one of those June, I think it was June or July, that I went out and shot this. So the field around this time was, I think it was rapeseed, so it was turning into that real nice golden yellow colour, but it still had elements of the green, so it's transitioning between the two. Here I'm just adding in a bit more refinement, some different values of colour into the left hand side of where your eye takes you on a journey up to the side of that field with all the foliage. Here's another great technique if you want to add a bit of detail. I'm just painting the edge of my metal ruler. So this is a real quick and easy way to generate those tall grasses. At this stage you can see my paintbrushes are starting to get smaller, and this is where I'm adding that detail. So I'm refining that tree line to the left hand side, and I'm using the paintbrush as well to add a bit more detail into the foreground. The brush I'm using at this stage is a fan brush, and I'm just using it tilted at a horizontal angle to create those grasses. And where I created those dark shadows at the bottom, it was then time to get that fan brush, load it up with some of that yellow paint and pull that down, and that just creates those highlights down into the foreground of the bottom of this piece. And it slowly starts to tie that field into one continuous field, in my opinion. Then the left hand side needed some attention. Again, it was time to use that fan brush and trying to create those streaks of grass. And you're just really trying to capture the highlight. It's just where the sun is hitting a blade of grass and highlighting it. That's all I'm trying to do here. And pulling it over those dark areas, it really starts to give the illusion that that is in the foreground. And why not? I've just got the roller out and just loaded it with paint, and I'm just trying to create some interesting marks on this, because again, as I say, I don't like everything to be too photogenic. I like freeness. I like to create marks that lead you into a piece. Right, it was the next day and I couldn't put this off anymore. It was time to paint the water tower. So I think when you're painting a subject, it's best not to focus on the detail too much. I like to focus on the different light and dark parts of the subject that I'm trying to paint. I think if you get those values correct, you don't have to be super detailed with your painting. And I also think you don't have to be too exact with placement. So what do I mean by that? Well, this water tower is not to scale as to the photo. Again, it's an interpretation of how I saw the water tower on the day and also glancing over and using the reference photo. But yeah, don't be super critical about the detail and getting this exact. Just focus on those different paint values, the different lights, the highlights and the dark shadows, and you'll notice that what you're trying to paint will slowly start to come alive, which you'll see me in a minute. For me, this painting was more about the openness of the field and for the viewer to question what is that on the horizon. But I do believe that if you do look at this piece up close, you can work it out that it's a water tower. I then, with a small brush, decided to focus on the dark areas around the water tower, so the arches. If you're looking at your reference photo, you can work out where the shadows are cast. And it's at this stage when you're adding those dark shadows and the highlights that your subject matter will start to come alive. I then picked up the palette knife and I thought, what's the easiest way to create these telegraph poles? Because I wanted a dead straight line, I thought I'd use the edge of the palette knife and then run the paintbrush up the side of the palette knife. This just gives you a little bit more control than trying to paint those freehand, because you can also visualise before you start to add the paint if you're happy with the vertical position. I wanted these telegraph poles to be in the painting but not too prominent, without them taking off your focal point of your eye leading up that path to the water tower. If anybody can suggest how people paint telegraph wires, I'd really like to know in the comments down below. This is the part that I really struggled with this painting. I'm just practicing here, trying to create those lines, trying to get a feeling of how that paint is going to flow. But then when I start painting, I always find when I'm using a thin brush, I never get that paint to flow nicely in one continuous line. And what I'd really like to know is, if anybody's out there, please comment down below how you create those really fine telegraph wire cable lines. I'd like to know what brush you use or what technique. That would really help me for next time I've got to do telegraph poles, because I've really struggled at this. But the end result I'm still happy with. It was then back in just to add some highlights on the actual poles itself, and then again pull out that big thick brush, vibrant yellow paint, and here I'm creating those areas of interest into the piece. It's at this stage your brain starts to then analyse everything, and you then start to go in and think, oh, that needs a bit more detail. So I was adding in some more colour to the left hand side. Now I could have left this paint in here, but I really wanted to get some of those distant trees in on that horizon line. And adding in some of that dark green right on the horizon line, that then starts to give the illusion of a lot more depth into this piece. And if you're painting a scene like this, don't feel nervous at this stage because everything's dry underneath it. So if you do muck up, you can quite easily go in with a wet paper towel and you can take away that paint. And as I'm adding in these last brush strokes here, it's me now in the future, and I'm about to tell you a fantastic opportunity for all you artists. Well, it's future James here. I'm just editing this video that you're watching, and I just wanted to quickly tell you about the sponsor of this video. Now don't go anywhere. The sponsor of this video is FlowWorks itself. Yes, that's right, I'm sponsoring this own video if that is possible. So why am I sponsoring this video? Well, I'm about to launch a web application called FlowFrame, and it's geared up for all you budding artists out there. And I'm going to be pushing it out to all the people that have subscribed to my newsletter over the last few months. So if you haven't already, quickly go onto my website, which is flowworks.uk, sign up for my newsletter, and then you'll be reminded when I release this web application. I'm really excited to show you what FlowFrame can do. So I'm going to take you off of that camera and we're going to dive into the computer. So what is FlowFrame? Well, FlowFrame is an AI art studio. You've probably seen a lot of applications out there where there's different room styles where you can pull your artwork in and create the end result, basically a photo of your artwork in a room itself. Well, FlowFrame's a little bit different. This one is an AI art studio, so it generates the images on the fly. And the way that FlowFrame works is all the prompts behind the scenes have been really specifically tailored to make the end result photos look as realistic as possible. So on the initial load screen, you can either upload photos here or you can click and drag. So we're going to use a photo of this painting in this video itself, and then it stores it into your library, and you can rename the paintings in here if you wish. And you'll also notice that when you select it, there's a numbering system, and that basically means you can have more than one painting in here. And if you select 2 or 3, you can change the order of which painting you want to show as priority in the scene itself. So you can highlight one painting over the other basically. Right, so moving down, you've got some output settings. That's just the quality of the end photo itself. Then we can go into some room controls and we can select a specific room. So let's say, for instance, we'll have a hotel reception. And below this, you've got some other settings. We can even use a photo of my own room, which I'll show you shortly. Room lighting, we can click on this and we can say, yeah, let's add some dramatic lighting and let's cast a heavy shadow over the painting. Then we've got some room aesthetics. We can add a house plant, or we can have the artwork being revealed from packaging, or we can display the painting on a professional easel. So these are quite specific to the type of images that I think artists will want. Then we can add some furniture. So we've got some furniture controls in there if we wish. Artwork scene scale. This is basically, we can either say to the image generator, we want a close-up of our artwork or sort of zoomed out. The same with camera angles. If we're not happy with it face on, because a lot of these photos that you do see are face on, so to me they look a little bit fake. But here we can say, okay, let's give it a side camera angle. And then we've got some artwork controls. So let's just close the room controls. Artwork controls are quite cool. So off the bat, frame options, we can give the actual painting a frame, we can change the thickness, we can change the colour. So let's sort of go for a bit of a dark grey colour, and then we can change the matte and the thickness of the matte, the thicknesses of the frame. We can say, yeah, let's have some glass reflection going on. And then we've got some artwork dimensions. Now this is pretty clever because this will apply a width and height to the end result. So if you're trying to sell a painting and you want to advertise it's 120 centimetres wide by 90 high, or whatever measurement you want in centimetres, it will then generate the image with those measurements on the end result. And then again, for artists, underneath is artwork availability, we can click a sold button there and it will generate a sold icon over the actual painting itself. And then the fun part, we've got some human interaction. So I'll show you these two shortly, which basically means you can upload a photo of you holding a piece of art or you looking at a piece of art, and it will generate that within the image itself. But let's have a little bit of fun. Let's click on human interaction, and if we click on add a number of people, and then we can add some pet interactions if we want. Add a dog in my scene, add a cat in my scene, but I'm not going to do that because we're in a professional hotel reception area. Now, then click visualize, and this goes off and creates the image from the selected presets that we've selected here. And as you can see from the bat, it's the most realistic photo you're going to get. It's absolutely stunning. You can download the photo from here. Your images will appear in here each time you sort of generate a new image. And we can refine this image if we want. So we can say, can you add more people into the scene? So if you're not happy with certain elements to the scene, you can refine the image and it will go away, work it all out, and then create a new image for you. So there we go. Just as long as I've been talking there, it's generated. So it's a real quick system. There's somebody checking out and there's another human in the background there. Now we've taken this one step further, and below it you can bring your then images to life, and it will keep the exact same aesthetics, same scene. Yes, it will absolutely create a video of this image of people either walking, talking, reflections going on over the painting. They will interact with the actual paintings itself. It is absolutely incredible. I'm not going to generate a video from this because it does take a few extra seconds, not minutes. You're not sitting there waiting sort of 5 minutes, but I'm just going to show you some examples that I've been generating from this system, which I think are absolutely incredible. So before I show you the video side, I've just dragged in a couple more photos of my paintings, so I'll just quickly run you through those other fun settings. So we'll say use a photo of my room, and here from your iPhone or your camera you can upload a photo of your room. Now I'm really putting this one to the test because the angle of this photo, you've got a wall here, it goes off at a different angle and a different angle there, so there's lots of angles there for this to work out. Again, we can add the dramatic lighting, make sure all that ties in. Room aesthetics, we'll leave that currently as it is because we want the room to look as realistic as possible. Camera angles, I'm not going to change the camera angle. I'm going to let it figure out putting that piece of artwork in that room itself. Human interactions, I'm not going to add anybody in for the minute, but I could quite easily. And then we're just going to visualize that and see what that brings us. Wow, there it is. I mean, it's even got the reflection of the light in the glass. That painting could be hanging in my hallway. That is actually my hallway as well. So you can see how powerful this really is. It really does make your paintings look like they are in real life. And just to sort of prove that one step further, now here's a photo of me holding a painting. I do suggest you sort of do a pose where you're holding a painting, so do upload one of you holding a painting. Now I'm holding a completely different piece of artwork compared to the one that I'm about to select, and I'm just going to tell the system to put me in a room, so I can say, okay, let's stick me in a modern gallery. That will go off and it should piece together all those photos in one picture. So here we go, that's me in a modern gallery. Now what is absolutely clever about this, in my photo I don't show any of my legs, my pose is completely different. So it will generate slightly different images compared to how your pose is, but the end result for the actual images itself are really realistic. I mean, that could be me holding a painting. Okay, the room doesn't look completely as realistic as it should, so we can go ahead and sort of refine that if we wanted to. And the beauty of this is you don't really know what image you're going to get, and everyone will be different. So this image that it generates here won't ever be exactly the same as another image. It will be close, they might use some same aesthetics, but realistically it won't be exactly the same because it is generated on the fly, and it is excited when your image pops up for you to go, wow, that looks really incredible. Okay, I'm going to show you some of the videos that this has been producing because I'm really excited to show you these. Before I show you the videos, I just want to show you some of the example images it's been pumping out, and I've got to say they're absolutely incredible, so realistic, and just ties everything into the pieces of art. This was the measurement tool I was talking about, where it gives you the width and height of your painting and applies it onto the actual photo. So if you're trying to promote a painting at a certain size, then this really helps communicate the measurements of your actual painting itself. This is another functionality as well in the human interaction. There's an option to add some professional gallery people holding your pieces of art. Really fun. Really fun way to express your art. This is in a modern home with some people in the background, and it's quite funny, that piece of art that I actually painted, I didn't like it to start with, but stick it in an environment that it looks like that, I think it could be hanging in a modern contemporary room just as this photo. This is another piece that I've done, and no, that's not actually on the easel that it's painted with, that's all AI generated. Here's another fun one. There's a messy art studio within the system itself. You can click that and it will generate an image with a messy art studio. And what's interesting about this is it's also recreated the painting, not only in a static image, but there's a video of this, and there's a painting of this painting on the side, but it's not quite the same. It's in the early processes of it being painted, and that was actually how it was when I was producing the video, which is quite freaky. But yeah, the main focus is of the image itself, but the aesthetics and it all ties in, just absolutely brilliant. Here's another one in a corridor near some lifts. Again, this could be an actual photograph with that painting hanging on the wall. And another render of me holding a piece of art, and again that was generated from that one image that I uploaded of me just holding a piece of art. Absolutely incredible. My legs aren't even my legs, my feet aren't even my feet. The way that I'm holding it though just really does make it look quite realistic. I could be in that room, the shadows, everything. And some other fun ones with the sold ticket price with the professionals holding my piece of art. And there's a prompt in there that interacts your artwork with packaging, and it's a really fun way, again, if you're trying to sell your art or trying to sort of say that this one is just about to be shipped, use the packaging prompt selection tool and you'll create some really good packaging scenes. Like this one itself, the human being in it, the sold ticket down there, it's just absolutely brilliant. Onto the videos, and I've got to say, when you play with the videos, they're absolutely mesmerizing. I just do not know how it creates the image within the scene and make it look so realistic. Some do look a little bit over AI generated, but some characters do look really realistic.
I think these designs capture the essence of the brief perfectly.
The flow between the interior and exterior is exactly what we wanted.
Now I had to play about with that picture of me, so that it's just from a photo of me holding that artwork. And there's certain points within this video that it looks like me and then doesn't look like me. So I'd say that looks like me and then it doesn't look like me. So it's not spot on, but it does give you a rough idea of how this is going and how better it's going to become. I especially like as well that it renders out the video with certain sound effects. Again, Some are realistic, some aren't so realistic, but this is the start of where this is going. And one of my favourite ones, the Messy Art Studio. And if I just pause the video here, you can see on the right hand side, again the painting leaning up against the wall is at like early stages of when I was painting this painting. Absolutely incredible. So that's a sneak peek. It's called FlowFrame. It's going to be out probably end of November. Sign up to my newsletter, flowworks.uk, and you'll be reminded when it's released. But before you go, let's just have a little bit more fun and just create one more scene, because I'm addicted to creating scenes with my art in already. Let's go for an airport lounge, add dramatic lighting. I love the heavy car shadow, side camera angle, human interaction, number of people in my scene, and just for a laugh, let's add a dog at the airport. And there you have it, one of those VIP airport lounges with some random people doing what they do with a random dog on the rug. I hope you like this video. Please do subscribe, follow me for my art, and I'll see you in the next FlowWorks video.